Thank you for choosing to watch our presentation. As a brief introduction, we are Group 6 and we will be providing an advanced case analysis of Google in China, a case written by Prahar Shah, provided by the Richard Ivey School of Business. For those of you unaware of the circumstances addressed in the case, the current internet giant, Google, drastically merged into the Chinese market in 2006. Though previously available for Chinese users, the case states that the website underperformed and was down roughly 10% of the time. In an attempt to achieve higher levels of Chinese customer satisfaction, Google created a new strategy so that the most information could be effectively provided to the highest number of users. In order to do so, Google made arrangements with the Chinese government to impose censorship throughout customer searches, and doing so drastically impacted their customer image. Google made arrangements with the Chinese government to impose censorship through consumer searches, and doing so drastically impacted their company image. Stock values fell, and issues arose involving the ethical implications of their decisions. Should the government be able to control what a population reads? Is information and freedom of expression a privilege, or is it a universal human right? Throughout our presentations, we will further analyze these questions and provide recommendations for Google regarding which solution would be the most beneficial in regards to their current situation. Though this is a case from 2006, it will be analyzed as if it was a present-day situation. There are three specific problems to be addressed regarding the case, the first being an inconsistent template. The Chinese version of Google lacked elements that are offered in other versions throughout the globe, and therefore generated views of unfairness. Why should China be provided with less internet options? An additional short-term problem is the inconsistent philosophy expressed by Google in regards to their motto of "Don't be evil." Several comments were made by the company expressing their desire to maintain this mentality. However, their actions have caused many to question their overall integrity. Both of these short-term problems have resulted in a long-term problem that can be detrimental to the company's overall revenue. By showing levels of inconsistency, Google has developed a tarnished image that has affected customers' perceptions worldwide. All of these problems can be related to two core causes, these being unethical decisions and choice of product components. These both are relevant issues regarding all current problems faced by the entity. Throughout our analysis, we will highlight three main alternatives that Google may integrate to relieve their current position. The first alternative is to continue with their installment of Google.cn and expand by integrating Gmail and Blogger branches in a way that respects the desires of Chinese users and provides a desirable level of privacy. The second option is to provide Google services without censorship and not follow the Chinese government restriction standards. The last would be to leave the Chinese market and completely retract all efforts that have been made to expand Google's Chinese customer base. Our desired solution is to remain in the Chinese market and continue expansion. However, all alternatives will be weighed effectively and justification will be provided as to why we believe this decision would be appropriate. Going into more depth on the problems that were previously stated, we will now address Google's inconsistent template. Google's Chinese branch is not equipped with the same functions as other global divisions, as security issues arose concerning consumer privacy. Not only were Gmail and Blogger applications not made available to the Chinese market, but drastic censorship was instilled regarding concepts that the government didn't want their residents to be aware of. This decision demonstrates unfairness and was deemed offensive. Why should the rest of the world be allowed to access this information, but not China? This causes ethical issues to arise. Is information a privilege or a right? Is it morally acceptable for the government to have control over what the population learns about? This controversy generated many negative views towards Google and contributed to tarnishing their image. An additional short-term problem faced by Google is their broadcasting of a philosophy that isn't followed in strict detail. Google's model is "Don't be evil." However, their current actions contrasted this value as they agreed to provide limited accessibility in order to obtain a higher level of profit. Monetary value was favored throughout these decisions, as Google aimed to provide the greatest access to information to the greatest number of people. Here you will see an illustration of a popular view regarding Google's censorship, expressing that the government is driving all publicized information that is available to the country. Their choices to limit features of their service and to not stay true to their overall mission led to a heavily weighted long-term problem, a tarnished image. Before 2006, Google had already made an effort in the Chinese search engine market. They provided consumers with slow connectivity speeds, and the server consistently went down, which generated a negative reputation in the industry to begin with. The censorship controversy caused groups of protesters and negative publicity to surface. They were even subject to drastic slander, compared to Nazi collaborators, and scrutinized for demonstrating hypocritical views. This tarnished image is a direct result of their short-term problems involving an inconsistent website template and their inability to strictly follow their company philosophy.
The following decision criteria will be evaluated in order to come up with the best alternative. We will be using the profitability of that alternative, how that alternative affects your company image, the number of Google users that alternative will provide, the customer relationships, how they will be affected, and by customers we mean the actual people who pay money to Google, so those would be people who use our advertising services and other programs. And we also will be looking at the legal consequences of any of these alternatives we decide to choose. We assign the following weights based on their importance. Since Google is a for-profit business, its number one concern should be its profit. Hence, we assigned it 50% as it has the most significance. Company image has a 30% weight because it's the second most important. It ties in directly to their profit and their long-term operations. Their company image affects the amount of users they'll have and a bunch of other stuff, but those are more long-term implications, so we need to look at that one directly. The number of users is important because it affects the company's growth, revenue, and a bunch of other factors, and it allows the most information to be spread to users. Customer relationship is important because we want the people who pay Google to be happy. They are very important. If they're unhappy with an alternative, it can be negative. It could have negative consequences to Google. Legal consequences are also important because Google entered a contract with the Chinese government, and any violation could result in them coming after the company through either financial or attacking our software or any other method. The first alternative we chose was to continue with Google.cn and expand with other products like Gmail and Blogger. The pros for choosing this alternative would be that it's highly profitable. The more services and more quality of service you offer, the better your customers are responding and the more users you'll have. Also, by offering these products, you'll increase your market share because, again, you'll have more users and you're reaching untapped potential because these products are limitless. China is one of the biggest markets in the world and it's growing exponentially. So it's very important that we offer a lot of services to these products if we're going to offer them, because without them, we're not tapping into this potential. The cons of this alternative would be that right now, Google doesn't feel secure enough in offering these products because they don't have the right privacy and security measures. It's an unethical practice because they're going to continue censoring products in order to comply with the laws, and thus it damages customer image because it's an unethical practice, so they will continue to have protesters, negative letters, and negative scrutiny in the public eye. The second alternative would be to provide Google services, but without the Chinese government restrictions. So basically, go back to what we used to do before we implemented Google.cn. This would result in the government shutting down our services. It wouldn't work all the time. Basically, it would decrease the quality of our services, and since that would happen, it would decrease our quality, as I just stated. It decreases the consumer relationships because they're not getting the proper services. There's also legal implications and repercussions because we're avoiding the government contract, so they will come after us, as I previously stated. You still obtain users, though, which is a pro because you're still in that market, even though you won't get as many users as you would by offering more services and being content with the Chinese government restrictions. You still will have some. And there's less scrutiny and a positive reputation because you're not doing an unethical action. You're not restricting searches. The last alternative would be to leave the Chinese market. So don't have any Google products or services. The pros of this would be a positive impact on our company image. The reason being that we're not promoting censorship and we're working with the government. We're not working. That will reduce the number of protesters and have a positive impact on our stock price because our stock price declined due to the fact that we went with Google.cn. So hence, if we leave, it's ultimately going to rise. The cons of this is that it's unprofitable. We're losing all this market share and possible revenue because we're leaving the market altogether. It's a waste of resources and investment because we already paid a lot of capital to develop this infrastructure in Google.cn. And it reduces the number of Google users because we're taking ourselves out of one of the biggest markets in the world. Now we'll discuss the solution.
Right, so we decided the best solution for Google is to stay in China. China is the most populated country in the world, so we'll have a great number of internet users there. In China, we will present Gmail, Blogger, and hopefully more products in the future. So staying in China will meet the best decision criteria. It will be the most profitable decision. It will increase the number of Google users, and it will increase the market share of Google. But it does negatively impact the company image since they are censoring some results, since we will be censoring some results. So for alternative number one, we found out that we will gain a lot of profit since we have a lot of number of users that will be searching and using Google's products and services, which means we will be able to advertise more products by which will grow the customer relation. And we will, since we did sign a contract with the Chinese government, we won't go through a legal process by leaving the Chinese market. For alternative number two, if we do leave China, we will lose out on the profit. According to China's Internet Network Information Center, they figured out that in China's search engine market, it will increase to 370 million by 2007. And that was, in 2005, it was 86 million. So we will lose out on that, but it will better the company's image since we will be following the ethical path and bettering Google's image. Basically, we're going to be showing we don't support censorship. And since we won't be in China, we won't have users, any customer relations, but we will have to go through the legal process of terminating the contract with the Chinese government. For alternative number three, we can basically just use google.com, which means we're disregarding government's restrictions. So the government is definitely going to try to block our servers. We're going to have a lot of issues. So which means we won't be profiting as much. We will lose a lot of users since google.com is going to be slow and is going to cut out a lot, and we won't have a lot of customer relations because customers won't want to advertise with us because we have a lot of problems with our servers. And we will also deal with the legal repercussions. So it's impossible for any alternative to resolve all three problems identified in the case. It will require multiple courses of action, which we would further recommend to focus on public relations by donating to charities and events to increase public image, which would resolve the second issue. Also, we would further recommend that the company changes their motto. As they follow through with us, the motto will become void. Customers are more concerned about the quality of the products and services and less likely to be concerned with the procedures and methods used to provide them. So focusing on Gmail, Blogger, and other Google services is important than for Google to stop censoring web searches, which means it will increase the amount of users and customer relations, which means it will be more profitable. A lot of negative publicity will result from North America and Europe, not actually it's China itself. So the negative publicity will eventually disappear over time, as it doesn't have a direct impact on people in China, because most negative publicity will result in North America and Europe, not really in China itself. So the issue about company's image will eventually resolve itself and become less of an issue over time.
Here you can see the Gantt chart that we have created to show the implementation plan we have for the solution that we came up with. You can see the different steps that we have. Our first step is to research China's culture and privacy concerns. When we say research China's culture, we say this because different cultures value some traits over others. We want to study this so we can tailor our products to best serve our Chinese consumers. When we say research China's privacy concerns, we say this because we understand China has strict security policies. However, we want to provide our users with their rights to privacy. We need to know what these concerns are and how they relate to our product offering. We can do this by researching online, inquiring professionals in the field, setting up meetings with related parties, and even sending teams to China to explore these topics themselves. We believe that this process will take about 3 months for us to gather accurate information that we can use. By this time, we expect to understand the wants and needs of the Chinese community and the level of privacy they expect. With this information, we can begin developing the privacy standards that meet the desired criteria. Our teams will group together and work to develop privacy standards that will not only protect our users, but are also based off of the information collected 3 months prior. We believe that this step will take a maximum of 2 months. The following step is to adapt the programs to China's culture, government, and privacy concerns. Now that we have the framework, we must work on adapting our current services to fit the Chinese market. This might include having proper translation, making changes to the code, redesigning the user interface, and making sure that the securities policies will match the ones needed by our Chinese consumers. This step will probably take the longest amount of time, as the teams will be going back and forth, working to create the desired final outcome. We have allocated 8 months to produce a version of the product that is ready to be tested in the market. Before we release the product to the general population, we will implement beta testing. We plan to release the products to a small sample of the population first and slowly increase the number of users as a beta progresses. This will continue for 4 months, and during this time, our team will work on any problems or concerns with the products or services and make the necessary adjustments. After the final beta testing stage, we will release our products to the entire population. We will dedicate 1 month to this step to see how well our product is being received throughout the population. Any major issues that appear with the influx of new users should be dealt with within this month. The following step is monitoring and support. During this period, we expect the number of new users to stabilize, and we can get a general idea of our user base. We have set aside 4 months to deal with any problems and customer concerns that appear during this time. Finally, during the evaluation stage, we will see how well our plan worked in implementing our services and use it as a reference to introduce other products to China in the future. In the event that we cannot provide our users with the security they deserve, we will retract our services from China and rethink our entire implementation strategy. Also, if negative publicity continues to be a problem and there are financial consequences because of this, Google will have to withdraw from the Chinese market completely.
Thank you for devoting your time to view our analysis. For a link to our original Prezi template, please see the video description. All questions or comments may be posted in the section below. The following slide is a list of our references listing specific journals that were referenced throughout our analysis.